Ilia Topuria might be the new lightweight contender, but he's not planning to work his way up the rankings. If you're enjoying this, please hit that like button to support our channel. Russian outlet TASS reports that Topuria's team has zero interest in a #1 contender fight with Arman Tsarukyan. Given that Ilia was the featherweight champion, his team made it clear. Ilia wants a championship fight. He will not fight for contender status with Tsarukyan or anyone else. With Dustin Poirier also believing he deserves a title shot, the UFC has some tough decisions ahead. On Monday's Ariel Helwani show, Helwani suggested the UFC might be waiting to see what happens in the Bilal Muhammad vs Jack Della Maddalena fight. If JDM wins, Islam could move up for a title shot, opening a spot for Topuria to fight for an interim or vacant lightweight belt if Makhachev leaves the division. MMA fans are fired up about this news. One fan wrote, "Too much entitlement for a one-title defense legacy. Arman would expose him." Another added, "Guarantee he'd accept a fight with Dustin or Charles. This makes sense. The Arman fight is too risky. He likely loses, but Dustin or Charles are winnable." Someone else in the community said, "Don't blame him. I wouldn't want to risk it either, but he's probably getting somebody for a warm-up at lightweight." Some think El Matador needs to earn his shot. I get it, he doesn't want to settle for less, but nobody forced him into a new division, got to test that strength with the bigger boys. Maybe he's worried the hype train will stop if he loses. Another agreed. Like I said before, if he was confident, he would have fought Arman. If he won, he'd put pressure on Islam. But it's clear, just like O'Malley said, that he can't make featherweight anymore, or it's too difficult. That's why he's trash-talking Islam for an immediate title shot without facing contenders. With the
I see him getting a title shot straight away. I think he's going to have to fight like a Poirier, Arman, a Charles, if he wants to get a title shot. He's not a lightweight. He shouldn't be fighting at lightweight. He should stuck at featherweight, and it's gonna be the downfall of his career. I think he thinks he's better than he is. Saying he's cemented his legacy at the weight. Beat Volk again, beat Lopez, beat Evloev, then you cleared the division out, yeah. Then move up. You should have to defend your belt at least 3 times if you want to move.
Muhammad JDM fight coming soon. We'll see if Ariel's predictions about the lightweight picture come true. With Ilia moving to 155, Diego Lopez can now fight for the vacant title instead of waiting for a Topuria-Volkanovski rematch. During Monday's Ariel Helwani show, Lopez spoke about the upcoming fight. "I think Alex is going to be better. The guy has rested for 1 year and he's healthy for the next fight. Alex knew he was 100% next to fight for the title, so I think he stayed in preparation for a long time." Even though he expects Volkanovski's best version, Diego believes following Topuria's blueprint will lead him to victory. "I learned so much from Topuria versus Volkanovski. Ilia has a similar style to me. I'm aggressive, going forward, and Ilia is the same. The difference is that I'm long and taller. I like to fight in close distance. I think it will be a good fight." Aljamain Sterling doesn't think Lopes deserved the title shot. He believes Movsar Evloev did. He shared this on social media, starting a heated exchange. Aljo posted, "Definitely should have been Movsar, but of course no fighter in their right mind would turn down a title shot because they think it's the right thing to do." Lopes replied with laughing emojis, which prompted Aljo to ask, "What's the joke? You got the title shot. Why would you turn it down? Help me understand what's so funny here. I'm confused." Diego fired back, "The joke is that I'm going to fight for the title because I'm the most active fighter in the division. Because I accept fights and don't deny them like you and your friend Movsar did." Sterling then attacked Lopes' manager Jason House. "You sound like a good old houseboy right now, talking tough to a guy you'll see very soon. I hope you talk tough then. Don't bring security and don't ask UFC to keep me out of events because you're writing checks you can't cash." The former champ defended his comments. "Word, and these knobs House and Lopez take that as an insult? Make it make sense. So sensitive." Lopes shot back, "Idiots, watch your words. You had my respect and you just lost it. Stay that ignorant and annoying even more because I saw you're threatening people on my team. Same energy." Aljo replied, "Shut the F up, bro. You guys can't use reading comprehension. Nothing either of you said makes sense. Talk to me in person. I live in Vegas. It's that simple. We handle it how you decide." They ended with Lopes writing, "See you soon," and Aljo adding, "See you." If Lopes wins the title, he might call for a fight with Sterling given this bad blood. Let's check out today's UFC updates before this week's Cody Garbrandt versus Davison Figueiredo fight night at the Apex, a new addition to the UFC London card at the end of March. According to Kay Fernandez, he and Guram Kutateladze will face off. Fernandez is coming off an August win over Yanal Ashmos, his first UFC victory, while Kutateladze beat Jordan Vreeland in August. 2 fights are reportedly in the works for UFC 316 in June, expected in New Jersey. According to reporter Leo Gaethje, Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison is targeted for this card. Additionally, Benny P reports that Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara France is also being targeted, with Georgia Maloney confirming if these fights happen, Pena will defend her title for the first time while Harrison builds on her UFC 307 win over Vieira. Similarly, Pantoja would attempt his 4th title defense while Kai looks for 2 straight wins after beating Urseg in August. Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor were once weeks away from their UFC 303 fight before McGregor pulled out with a broken toe. Since then, there's been almost no real news about his return. While Dana White initially expressed optimism about early 2025, then late 2025, the last time we heard from the UFC boss, he had no idea when McGregor would return. During Monday's Ariel Helwani show, Chandler weighed in. "My heart of hearts says Conor's got to come back to his first love. Everything he has can be tied back to the UFC and the opportunity they gave him." He continued passionately. Does he want his legacy to be, "My last fight, I broke my leg. I touted the greatest comeback in combat sports history. I fooled everybody for years, then signed to fight Michael Chandler and pulled out, never to return again?" I don't think he wants that legacy. Then again, Chandler added, "I haven't walked a mile in that man's shoes, so I won't say what he's thinking. My heart says he's coming back at some point, but if I were a betting man, I'm not putting money on it." Chandler also spoke about his upcoming fight with Paddy Pimblett. "We'll test his grit, his championship mentality, his cardio, his heart. Paddy Pimblett will be tested more than he's ever been tested in his entire life in April, just 7 short weeks away. It's the biggest opportunity of his life. Does he rise to the occasion or does he sink?" If Chandler wins, it'll be interesting to see if he calls out McGregor again during his post-fight interview. Joe Rogan has conducted some of the biggest post-fight octagon interviews in UFC history. On a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, Rogan discussed the best post-fight interviews with comedian Felipe Esparza. Rogan cited Israel Adesanya's inspirational UFC 287 interview after beating Alex Pereira as his favorite. "This is my favorite moment of anybody after they won a fight. This was real in the moment. Beating a guy who's the boogeyman. Alex P is the scariest in the sport. He knocked Izzy out twice. He left hook KO'd him in kickboxing, then beat him down in the UFC, and then Izzy finally knocked him out." Rogan added emotionally, "That was a classic moment," and then he grabs the microphone and gives one of the most inspirational speeches. When you hear it, you're like, wow, that's what makes the whole career worth it. With plenty of US-based pay-per-views booked this year, UFC 313, 314, 316, and 317, Rogan will be on hand for some massive fights in the coming months. When Henry Cejudo retired, he had been undefeated for years with championship wins at 125 and 135 pounds. Since returning in 2023, however, Triple C has gone winless. Demetrius Johnson believes Cejudo should retire rather than risk his health. In a YouTube reaction video after the controversial UFC Seattle main event, he said Cejudo has nothing left to prove.
Would I like to see Henry Cejudo retire? Yeah, I think so. And yes, I know it's such good money. It's easy to train 8 weeks and go out there and fight, but man almost went blind. What I like to see from Henry Cejudo next, I like to see him retire. He's got a great podcast with him and Kamar Usman, pound for pound. He's got 2 beautiful children. He's got a beautiful wife. I mean, he's got businesses. There's no reason for him to fight and keep risking his health.
Ariel Helwani weighed in on Monday's show. "It's tough, and I feel for a guy who's at the very end of his career. Who knows how many he has left and what the damage is going to be. Now he has to sit on an L, and really, in 5 years, no one remembers the circumstances. They just see it as a loss. So now it's like, oh, Henry's on a losing streak. Well, not really. As of Monday, Cejudo is still dealing with the impact of the eye poke. Michael Bisping believes the UFC needs to address eye pokes. People need to know there are goddamn consequences. Eye pokes are terrible. You know all about my history with eyes. Eye pokes are bad. If you start taking points, people will stop stretching their fingers out." Bisping continued. Then the third round started with only a minute left. Song Yadong had his fingers out, and so did Henry Cejudo, and I'm like, why isn't the ref saying anything? While Song and Triple C agreed to a rematch after the fight, Dana White said he has no interest in seeing them fight again. Given that, there's no telling what's next for Cejudo. A couple of weeks ago, we reported on Paulo Costa teasing a fight with Bo Nickel on the MMA Gurus podcast. Now, after Jared Cannonier's win over Nasruddin Imavov, Costa seems all in on fighting the NCAA legend. In a series of social media posts this week, Costa dropped some news on Cannonier while teasing a fight with Nickel. First, he cryptically wrote, "Jared is out for a while. Source, UFC." He then added, "Not Jared K." Then name dropped Nickel. "Is Bo Nickel available?" No word from the UFC on whether there's any truth to these comments. After Nichols' victory over Paul Craig, Dana White said he has work to do and the UFC will move him along slowly. Since Cannonier is a former title challenger, a fight against him would definitely be a step up in competition for Nickel. Sadly, UFC 313 has lost an incredible fight. Dan Hooker has pulled out of his bout with Justin Gaethje due to a hand injury. Here's what Dan had to say.
Welcome back to Zoe Hooker TV. We did have a little break. We have been busy. Dad had a fight, or we're supposed to have a fight, but I've busted me paw.
Just sparring last night, as I do, just letting some hooks go, and just caught one of the boys on the top of the dome with my knuckle. And then I didn't think too much of it, but they sent me off to get a CT scan. Had a little CT scan, and they told me that my hand is fractured. So yeah, like, I obviously still would fight with like the medicals. They like squeeze it, like they squeeze your hands. I'll just say they're like, ah! So nah, we'll see how it all plays out. We'll see if we can kick this fight down the road, or we'll just wait and see, baby. It's just unfortunate that it was this close. Obviously gutted for all the fans that I know that were excited for this.
Islam took no damage in his last fight. The MMA world quickly reacted to Hooker pulling out, with Renato Moicano, Mateusz Gamrot, and Rafael Fiziev offering to step in on short notice. Fiziev said, "Let's run it back." Gamrot said, "My fight with Hooker was very close and he got lucky with the judges. Time to fix it and prove it." Moicano said, "2 weeks is good. I got enough time for 2 or 3 sparring sessions. I'll be ready if they call." Fans had mixed reactions. Reschedule. Too good of a matchup. Best option is to rebook Dan Hooker versus Justin Gaethje at UFC 314, depending on how quickly Dan's hand recovers. This is the worst way to start the day. Hope Hooker heals quickly. Did bro punch a wall? I know Ilya doesn't want to fight a contender, but imagine what these guys be doing a week and a half before the fight. Truly baffles me. This quitter has pulled out 5 times in the past 2 years. So many fights and cards ruined by this bum who can't control himself from being a bully in the gym.